Yeah. It's small enough, I think.
It's right here, Doug.
Okay.
Just talk about it. It'll pick you up.
Okay, well, you might remember, I was at the village meeting 2 years ago, talking about erosion control. And sometime in 2023, we put in for a grant for the overall water improvement project. That didn't get funded, so then we were able to proceed, the village had to proceed with this, get it done in that 2-year window there. So the original deadline, still the deadline, is December 19th or 25. So in this January of this year, I provided the village with a schedule that showed every step and how we were going to meet that deadline. And we got the plan specs done in April of this year, figuring that we would have approval by the end of May, which would have given us plenty of time to put in the system and have it operational. We probably would have been finishing up right now. But there was delayed review time by the State Department of Health. They came back with 4 rounds of comments. The latest was just in September. After having performed an inspection at the well field, they saw water in the bottom of the manholes for the fluoride injection, and they said, "Oh, we want you to put sub pumps and stuff in at these new manholes to make sure we don't get water in them." So we were able to talk them out of that option because it's just going to add a lot of money to the project. So we just finished adding 2 alarm floats in each of the new manholes, which 3 where the new corrosion treatment product will be injected into the lines from each of the wells. So those revised plans just went in this morning. So the letter, I wrote this letter this morning and gave it to the village just to present the schedule going forward. So back in September 26th of this year, I wrote a letter saying the village should really request an extension for 1 year based on the delayed review times. So the mayor did send in a letter on October 8th. The next day, the Department of Health wrote back in an email saying that they're not able to grant an extension to the 24-month time frame. I think that's because it's EPA mandate. This was from Michael Sketch of New York State Department of Health. He explained that if the village is unable to install treatment by the 12/19/25 deadline, the village will be issued a treatment technique violation at that time, which will require a Tier 2 public notification for 30 days. With the public notification, the village will be able to explain the current status of the project. And he just gave some examples like treatment has been designed, approved, bid, and anticipated completion dates. And then public notification will be required to be repeated every 3 months as long as the violation exists. So he did end his email saying, "I do apologize for the lengthy review process. I do sympathize with the village." So after reading that there's going to be a notice of violation every 3 months, we came up with a revised schedule here so that there would only be 2 notices required. So we are expecting, well, we're proposing that the village call for bids contingent upon receiving New York State Department of Health approval at the November 12th meeting. Then we're expecting the final approval mid-November. That will allow us ideally advertise the bids on November 19th. We would hold the bid opening on December 11th at Village Hall. And the village would need to hold a special meeting on December 17th to award the bids. And that's 2 days prior to the first issuance of the violation from the Department of Health. So we'll be able to say in that response to the public that the bids have been received and things are moving forward. At that time, by January 14th, the contracts will have been signed with the contractors. We'll have been able to issue a notice to proceed. The contractor can begin work inside. There's some inside work. There's also excavation work, which isn't going to be able to happen until spring. So that's why the project cannot be done by March 19th, which is when the Department of Health will issue the second notice. So then the week following that, the village would put out their notice to the residents. Then spring of 2026, roughly in May, the village is always flushing the system, which we have done prior to putting the new system into operation. So that can be done as late as May. And then we're going to have a substantial completion date of June 14th, 2026, for the contractor to be completed with the work and the new system operational, which is 5 days ahead of a third violation. That's the did know that the lead action level exceeded since 2021. So you're in compliance with the normal regulations, but since you did have those hits back in 21, they put, Department of Health put this into motion. You cannot say, oh, we're good now, we're going to not do corrosion control. You still have to do it. It's got to go forever. Now, what we're hoping is that because you've been in compliance, dosages will probably be able to reduce the money in the future once it's operating.
Doug, I have a question, if you don't mind.
Yep.
So we will be able to put into our notice that our lead levels are in compliance.
Yes.
And we will be able to put into our notice that it's not our fault that we're behind.
We can say that, yeah. We can say, here's the timeline.
Due to a lengthy review process and delays by New York State Department of Health.
They may not like that.
See attached email from,
But it's the truth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's right in writing from Mike Pleskart.
Did they give any reasoning why they were delayed?
Touch on the estimated cost of the project. I know the board is committed to use of fund balance.
I did look that up. I thought it was in the $120,000 to $150,000 range.
Not a question for Doug, but I think between this, the confusion that a lot of people had about the most recent notices that went out, and then the sort of ongoing miscommunication about some of the water quality issues in the village, I think it's time for a forum or some type of open meeting for people to get an update on all of this from Ryan and from Doug, and so that we can have an open discussion about what this all means, explain it to people in a very real way that you're not going to get in as I typically say, like when you're trying to communicate like health or public health information, like once you have to start explaining things more than like 1 or 2 sentences, it's over.
Yeah.
And so I think like it's time to pull together a forum, open it up to the village, and just say, we're going to answer all these questions. We're going to talk about all this stuff. Come to the forum, get your questions answered. Appreciate, I know you've made the offer before to be here for those. So
Yeah.
I think to you and I, Ryan hates public speaking, but I think it's important for people to hear from Ryan, hear from us about exactly what's happening here. I've had to explain the violation thing that we just had to send out. I can't even tell you how many times to people. And just like letting them know, like, this is not a new violation. We thought we spelled that out, and it literally doesn't matter. Unless it's and if it's longer than a 2-paragraph letter, people aren't going to read it anyway.
we have to do the letter anyways, but.
I know,
We can do the public.
I think we time the forum or some type of session. And it doesn't have to be even if it's like in, I don't know what it looks like, but we should have something in advance of these notices going out. If these notices go out,
The language is gonna come from health department.
So yes, there is a template that they provide.
right?
We are allowed.
But we
to-
can put our verb in our first paragraph in.
Mhm.
Yes.
But we need some sort of timeline that's visible that we can write to them.
Just remember, it doesn't matter that we've explained these things in isolation. There's a certain threshold where we have to notify the public a certain amount of times about issues with the water. The narrative is gonna be, there's a problem with the water. So yeah, we can put DOH language, that we could put this is DOH's fault, which obviously find a way to explain this in a better way, but like, my point is, none of that's gonna matter.
It's a reality that we haven't had a violation since 2021. The mainline systems and the source, clean, safe, the water is safe to drink. The lead's coming from many lead service line pipes and internal plumbing. The erosion control is going to help preserve that privately owned infrastructure. But my question is, we know so the state's not gonna give a reason for the lengthy process, and in some ways, that it's very much an unfunded mandate, because we didn't get grant funding through the WIA program. So, we gotta do this. But what I'm frustrated with is we cannot be the only community in upstate New York that is dealing with a lengthy, in the words of the DOH, a lengthy review process. It's great that they sympathize with the village and the other municipalities, but what is the state doing to expedite this so that we can do our due diligence and our responsibility as local officials to ensure that this project gets done in a timely and efficient manner? So that, I think, is the message, whether it's in the formal letter or not, needs to go out to our residents as an advocacy alert to contact our state delegation so that they fix their administrative stuff that is jamming up our process from helping us do the maintenance that we've been prepared to do since 2020.
We don't know if they're gonna approve it next month.
Right, that's what, all of this is contingent
We're
upon.
hopeful on them doing it. We don't know if is that review gonna take 2 months? We don't know.
As long as they don't come up with something new that they haven't mentioned in the last 6 months, because that's what just happened in September. Something totally off the wall came out.
Kind of like the fact that there was a violation that we didn't know about. We didn't notify the title, we had to do extra.
We didn't get
Right.
proper
We didn't
notification.
get
We knew
proper-
about it, we didn't get the
Exactly.
violation.
And it probably comes down to staffing issues.
Which is great, that's a them problem, rather than us
Right. Oh, yeah.
problem, because our staff is ready to go, ready to guide and facilitate this. The village board is ready to use the fund balance to put everything in. The state staffing problem should not be a residence problem, it should not be a local municipality's problem. So this violation does go squarely on New York State Department of Health for their lengthy review process. And they have the burden to figure this out, because it's just going to be local municipalities and residents that have to deal with the costs and consequences of their delay.
They won't come, but we should definitely invite them to the meeting we're gonna.
And I'd like
Yeah,
to even
that's
suggest that we reach out and have meetings with Angela Santa Barbara and Pat Beatty and make them aware of this situation. Because this is a state administrative process, should not delay a municipality that's ready to go. And now we're gonna have to issue 2, potentially 3 violations for something that's totally not our fault.
How do we collect the other municipalities?
I'll reach out to Nikon. They have it to start
Do
with.
you guys know anybody, other municipalities that are dealing with a similar issue?
Not necessarily on this subject, but in general, really since COVID, any plans that we submit to Department of Health and New York State DEC, it's just taken extra long since then.
most other communities already have their corrosion control installed. We haven't yet. A lot of places are years with it being installed,
Right.
so.
Well, I'd be curious to see what happens with Nisky.
And how- why was that?
Right now.
And why was
They
that?
had violations before we did, so they're, you know, we're
Right.
a little delayed from everybody else.
And it's probably because our infrastructure perhaps isn't as old as that affects it here. Because at the end of the day, city infrastructure was built late 1800s, ours was built.
Right.
Like early.
And we're actually really proactive about this, given the levels that we saw and like sort of the, how much we're talking about and the fact that there's been nothing since 2021, like, I mean, obviously that infrastructure continues to get older.
Right.
So until the state comes up with a bunch of money to replace everybody's lines,
What's gonna
ha,
happen?
ha, ha.
Yeah.
That's not gonna happen. They're gonna make us replace everything and they're not gonna pay, they're not gonna pay. For it. So that's what's coming. So EPA and DOH can make decisions all they want. But these are again, more example of unfunded.
Right. But also, so we're all clear about this, these are the pipes in people's houses. The corrosion control is about changing the complexion of the water that's going to people's houses to reduce the amount of corrosion that happens when it hits people's houses.
For people who have lead pipes.
Galvanized.
Right.
Galvanized, yeah, right, yeah.
So my takeaway then is I'm gonna contact NICOM to get a list, see if there's others that are dealing with this. I'll work with the board around a letter to our assemblyman and state senator. And we'll work on putting a letter together to the public, sharing it with the board for their input. And when do we think we have to get the letter in public?
Well, they'll issue us a time of December 19th. We have 30 days to get a letter out
Okay,
after that date.
after
So
December.
if you could just refresh my memory, violation in 2021, we started this process in 2022.
The study to do the testing to figure out what the optimum corrosion control treatment would be, and then we had an engineering report that Department of Health approved on December 19th. That started the 2-year clock.
They've been sitting on it for 2 years.
No. So within that 2 years is when it was applied for, the FIDE grant. And then when that didn't come in, we knew the village had to fund it themselves.
We approved it and then they submitted a plan.
And then there were things that changed the plan.
And then there was 4 rounds.
Exactly.
Four separate rounds.
Right.
Of coming back and forth.
Exactly.
Doug, just,
In that time period.
and Doug, you had said that some of them, or at least the last one had something on it that wasn't even in there before.
Right. It resulted from
An inspection.
inspection that was out there that had nothing to do with the current project.
Right.
Thanks, Doug.
Any other questions?
I'm good.
George? It's good. Justin?
I think I've said enough.
Okay. Doug, we'll let you know
Yeah,
a date that works for you.
sometime, well, it's kind of near Christmas time there, December 19th, so.
Yeah. We'll figure
Yeah.
out one of our meetings, okay?
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you.
Doug.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thanks, Doug.
Next on our agenda is the approval of the Scotia Professional Firefighters contract.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with the Scotia firefighters.
I will second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So moved. Any new business? Just remind folks that tomorrow is, the Envision Social meeting for, the New York Forward Project. LaBella will be doing the presentation. We don't really have a role other than be there, and support it.
Several months ago, I sent to the board the idea of putting together a citizen work group, just to kind of look at and begin the process of having a comprehensive park plan, including identifying the purpose. I just wanted to bring that up again, perhaps get some time at a work session to review that proposal.
Yes.
and see if that's something we can do.
Yep, and I also spoke with Ryan, we're gonna put together a little brief summary of each part, just so we have that for the discussion.
My only piece is just by way of update from our last meeting. Thank you to the mayor and to Lydia for providing edits on Jamie Stegman's ZBA orientation outline. And so she is making the edits that were identified, and then we'll send it back, and then we can send it to the board for final approval before we implement. So I want that to be a loose end.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.